This is a simple tutorial, basically to guide how I created this entire town square with zombies, as you can see. So over here on the right, on the outline, I'm going to walk you through the model. I will start off with going through the collection that I created called the town square, and each of the objects that make up this entire model. I will want to walk you through first the collision objects. These collision objects are required when we're dealing with simulation using the particle system with Boid features, which I will walk you through later on. But first, in these collision objects, I include things like the town itself. The town is this buildings that surround this particular town square. It is not provided in my Blender file tutorial to you, but you can always get another set of buildings on your own because this building was not created by me. I will try to find you a free link that you can also take a look at and use in your simulation. The thing that I think would be more interesting would be how I set up what we call the collision walls. The collision walls essentially is to block or create a barrier to stop the zombies or what we call boids in particle system to go through. So uh, the particular set of walls I have is essentially the one that's surrounding the center part of the town square, which I call the stage. This is the main showcase where I will have a singer singing and that the zombie cannot go on to the stage. So to stop them from going onto the stage, I created stage one. You can see this, maybe I put it into wire mode. Okay, I think you have a better view now. So I have essentially two walls at this stage. The reason why I have two walls, I found that it is more effective to really stop these boys or zombies from going into the stage. If you only have one collision wall, sometimes you will find that the boys or zombie particles may get through the stage. But if you have two walls, you can be assured that it will never get through to this stage. So that is the intention of the simulation. So we have these two collision wall. Next, I also have two outer walls. I call it mist box layer 1 and 2. The reason why I call it mist layer is because in addition to the wall that used to create a barrier and make some visual effect of zombies get stopped at this wall, it also can be used to put in a mist effect using the volume setup shading. You can find a lot of tutorial around setting up a kind of a volume mist. We have a foggy effect on visual. So, but for my purpose, I am using it more around a barrier to stop the zombie from going through those walls. It doesn't stop 100%, but it does stop majority of the zombie from going through. We can maybe take a quick look, but I will have a separate demo to show you that more effectively. In this simulation run, you can see now these zombies are kind of going towards the center, but are stopped at the wall. So that is essentially the visual effects that I wanted to simulate. I'm going to stop it now and look at a next wall. There's still another wall at the outer side, which is perimeter of the town square. This wall is created because in my simulation I also have what I call roaming zombies, which I can set up. But the roaming zombie effect is that these zombie or boys actually will get out of the town square slowly. And before too long, because I have a 2000 frame video, you will find that the zombie will eventually go away to other parts of the town. So to stop them from going out so that I still have zombies within the town square for my visual, I have this outer wall to stop them from going away, all of them. So that's why we have a collision wall square out on the parameters. You notice that I also have a ground collision. The ground collision essentially is to stop the zombie from falling down through the floor. Uh, it is required because in boards, even though you may be able to simulate it to grow on the ground, but it doesn't really work unless you have a floor with collision setup so that the zombie will stay on the ground and not falling through the floor. So that's why we have a ground collision, which is essentially a, a, a big is a plane basically set up with collision physics. I can just show you the physics. It is just this little button under physics. Just switch it on and that's it. There is really no setting required. Or if you want, you can do some setting, but it's not really required. So that kind of explain all the walls and the ground that I've set up for collision to make this simulation. You notice that on the outline, I've also grouped everything into empty. The empty is a parent, simply because it's always easy to group objects that are similar into one group and using the empty to move them around. Now let's go to the stage, which is the centerpiece of this whole simulation. When I say the stage, I'm referring to the center part of town here in this screen you can see. So let's go through one at a time. I have an empty setup as a parent to control essentially the movement of the camera and the real footage here, which is this little plane here. This plane is really a video footage. If I were to go into the viewport shading, I click on that. It takes a bit of time because there's a lot of objects here. So, okay, now you can see that this is really a plane with a video that's with a transparency background. So this is the main character that I have, who is a singer. And if you want to look at the model later on, the shading is set up in this manner. This is a very typical setup required for having transparency video put into a 3D environment. Um, the other thing I want to mention is that for this particular empty center, it controls a number of things. I'm going back to solid mode so that things go a little bit faster. So here we go again one more time into the solid mode. So this empty center essentially will rotate uh, and will bring along a number of objects as it goes. So if you to look at the timeline here, selected this, I, I, I have a very simple animation of that rotation. If I were to click onto here and press N to take a look at the setting, I start with the rotation based on Z. I think it's at 150. Yeah. Essentially, this setup is to rotate from 0, which now you can see it appear in a yellowish color, indicating that you have a keyframe set up for this rotation parameters. So I start out with frame 152 with 0 degrees, and somewhere around at the end of my video, which is set up around 177 degrees. If I were to click onto that time frame and move to, yeah, somewhere at 1768 frame, you will see again a yellow color for rotation Z axis. I simply rotate it 360 degrees so that the camera will go round and round the whole stage. Before I show you how it looks like on the camera, I just show you the setup. So the empty is a parent that controls object that the children of this empty will rotate together. We have a camera that rotates with it. This is where I will now show you the camera effect. If I were to select camera Stacy, all right, on the left hand side, notice that I have another outline editor on the left, which only display lights and camera and empty, so that it's easy for me to make adjustment, which is usually around the lightings, the camera, and the groups of objects through the empties that are the parents. So I selected camera Stacy. If I want to make this active, I just move my cursor to the viewport and press Control numpad 0, and this will be the camera effect. Because now I'm in solid mode, on what you look like a wall, that is actually a glass plane, which I will explain later. It should be transparent, but it will not be transparent in this viewport. So I need to move to the viewport shading or render shading on the top right here. If you click here, you can see now I can view through the camera through the glass wall. And if I were to do a play, let's say I start off with starting from around 869 and I just do a play. Now the camera, Stacy in this case, Stacy is the name of the character with the rear footage. The camera now will rotate and show around the stage. You can see that in a different view. I'll explain that again. This is a camera on the bottom and is now a chart of empty in the center. And as I play it, you can notice that this camera is moving and rotating, taking the view of the stage. Um, the reason why you can find so many zombies into the stage is because I start off the simulation from frame 800. Normally, when you do a Boid simulation, you should always start from the very beginning so that the zombie will not spawn in the middle with the collision wall being ignored. So anyway, the intention of now, what I'm trying to show you is the camera is now rotating because of it's a chart of the empty center rotation, and the empty center rotating from 0 to 360 degrees from somewhere around 150 frame to 1800 frame. Next is empty Stacy. Now this is the one that controls the footage here. So let me start from the beginning so that we get rid of all the zombies so they won't come in now. Okay, this is the center of the particular stage with the real footage. And you notice that in this empty Stacy, I control all the lighting for this particular video. So we have, normally I set up about 5 lightings, which is area light. It allowed me to control the color and brightness of the video at night frame. If I were to go to the render view, you can see the lighting better. You can see now with because of the lightings that I set up, uh, it kind of blends, allow you to see the footage better in a night scene. There is also some work around the coloring because I do have other characters that I put on the stage. So I would try to make this footage with a similar color background with the other characters. And I use the 5 area lighting here. You can see on the right hand side to control the coloring and brightness to match with those other characters. Now, in terms of the actual footage for the video, you I already explained we have this particular transparent background, TBG for short, that it show the particular singer. Um, I also have another plane that I normally put it behind. This is not always required, but it helps. If I turn around, you can see that it's black color. The setup for this second plane, which is a duplicate of the first, but except that the shading is different. The shading is essentially the mask up and make only the black shadow. This helped me in the case of sometimes when you have very strong lighting behind the image plane and you can see through the image with the lights. But if you have a second plane with black shadow, it will stop the lighting behind from projecting through the image. So it looks much more realistic that this is a person without light going through the body. The setup for the second image plane, which is, as I say, is the same video as the first one in terms of the video play, but it has a little bit of a different setting up. Only essentially to mask out and have a black effect, a black color effect. So let me show you this. If I were to now look at the front and I were to just disable the view part of the front, you can see now the effect is for the second plane is only a black shadow mask out from that video. And if I press a play button here, you can see that the shadow will be actually moving. It is basically the same video as the one on the front. So I'm going to enable the front again. So both planes are playing the same video, one with the correct picture image, the other one with only the masking shadow. Okay, that is empty Stacy that control the real footage with the lightings and all that. All right, so that's the rotation effect. Next is the empty dolly. Now, empty dolly is just one of those effects that you play with cameras to achieve uh, what we call a dolly effect, similar to sometimes they call it a Fred Hitchcock effect. Um, if I were to select the camera for Stacy Dolly, because I have a separate camera for this purpose, so that it would not be more complicated in terms of animation. If I were to do again, control numpad 0, hold on, let me switch on the screencast so that you can see the command. So I repeat, it's a press control 0. You are now looking at the camera of Stacy Dolly. And the way I do it is that I only set up this dolly effect from frame 1 to frame 100. Now, how you set it up, I will give you a link to another tutorial that will explain all the camera tricks, but let me play it so that you can see what it looks like. And I'm going to put it on a daylight, well, without the rendering effect, so you can see much better the effect. You notice that now the person is not moving, but the background is moving. This is a dolly effect, and I think that is a very nice effect to create uh, the motion of background while the main character remain stable. So that's the Dolly setup that you can take a look later on your own. And finally, I have the platform, right? The platform essentially is comprised of only a couple of things. The first one is a glass wall. You can see this is the glass wall. It is using glass material. The shading can be found here. It's a pretty interesting setup. Again, the purpose of this tutorial is not to explain all the details. I have included in my setup. I use this one of the shader that was provided in one of a free download for EV environment. It is a pretty nice effect shaders, so I use that. Um, Next is that. Okay, sorry, just let me get back to where I was. Yeah, so that's a glass wall, and then you have your pillar. The pillar is, well, it's just basically I use aluminum color, and I just show you briefly. It is a simple set of metal images set up to create this color effect of metal. Back to layout again, stage. I wanted to get a star shape stage, and I got one of these particular asset, and I just want to have a star, but because it is a little bit different than what I wanted, if I show you by moving up, this stage is actually a little bit more information or more data that I wanted, and all I want was only the star. So I have to create another flooring so that I can only get the star out of it. So the way I do it is to create this particular square box, which I put in an image of glittering color, and using that I can then adjust the stage up and down to only wanted to see the star effect in yellow. So that is basically the flooring part of the stage, all right? Comprised of the two objects. So with the glass wall, pillar, and the stage floor, this is how the stage looks like. So that is basically everything around the stage. In terms of the zombies, I have two types of zombies. I have a set of what I would call standing zombies. The reason why I have standing zombie because if I were to only have a roaming zombies, it doesn't give you the kind of a visual effect of scary zombies surrounding it and staying there. Because the roaming zombie will always move on, while the standing zombie will be staying there and standing at one place, but doing all kind of motions that you can select from wherever. I mean, my zombies are from Mixamo, and Mixamo have a lot of actions around a standing zombie. So just to demonstrate what it looks like, I'm going to do a run. So there are four basically plane, I would call it. It shows in yellow color for easy to identify them. Make them kind of surrounding around the stage. All right, they all have the same setting except that they're all facing position that I rotate them towards the stage. So these zombies that appears on this yellow plane or yellow rectangular boxes are just movement of zombie not going forward at all. It just stand there. So looking at how this particular set of parameters are done, let me just stop it so that I can move faster on my computer. The setting is very simple. It is simply using the hair particle system. In each one of them, I only use about 3 to 4 zombies so that it would not look too crowded. Um, the rotation, well, rotation is not really needed if you rotate physically. And in this case, I use collection. I have basically a few type of standing motion for zombies, and they group it under zombie standstill. You can see that in my outline editor. You can see I have a collection called standing zombie. I have two grouping of zombies. One we have direct and geo set up to do the attack motion, and then I have one motion Kunya who would be actually screaming. So maybe at this stage I will show you what it looks like in terms of Konya. Let me just go to take a look at all the zombie that I set up. In order to see all my setup for the zombie used in the particle system, I will switch off the town square and focus on only the zombies. These are all the zombies I have downloaded, and you can see this setup also in my tutorial 2, 3, and 4. Uh, it is all Misamo models with emotion. If I were to play it, you can see that every zombies is set up slightly differently in terms of motion or the character. So there's a running motion on the right hand side, either walking or running. There's one crawling. Then the standing ones are the one on the left. You can see there's a policeman, Derek. You have Jill and Konya. Well, I know all their names now. They're like my friends now. Okay, so these are the standing zombies, and they are all surrounding the stage. So I'm going to switch off the zombie and focus back onto the town again. All right, that explain the standing zombies. So the roaming zombies, which is basically the big town square. The only thing to note for this town square is that I make a square hole in the center. The reason why I make a square hole, which you can basically use one of the collision wall and then do a Boolean uh, difference with the plane to cut a hole, a square hole, and apply it. You must apply it so that the hole actually becomes real. So with that said, then this square will basically spawn this sort of moving zombies everywhere except the center. So that is essentially what is the roaming zombie playing about, is spawning moving zombies that goes around based on the simulation that I set up. In this setup, let me explain briefly the setup for roaming zombies. This is a little bit more tricky because it uses the Boid physics. Uh, so you can see it's simply selecting physics type called Boids. And then the thing to pay attention is that I'm only doing a land simulation, so make sure that it's always only allowed land to move. A white climb, if you click climb, they will climb over the wall. So they will climb over the wall and get into the stage, which is not what I want. So allow climbing should be taken out. Speed, you notice I set up 50, which is kind of for demonstration and tutorial because it will move very fast. Again, you can see this zombies. I'll turn it to solid mode so that you can see a better effect. I don't know whether you can see it. or zombies are mostly trying to go towards the center. Uh, it is moving faster than the actual movement, like walking movement. All right. Why I'm doing that is only to demonstrate this. Uh, Typically, a good number for a more realistic simulation for walking is 5. I tested. Otherwise, you know, you can try with different numbers to get different type of realistic motion that match with the movement of your legs. The other thing that I would like to pay attention is banking. I normally set to 0 and pitch 1. It does give a little bit of angular movement in random wise. The important thing to that kind of difficult to really set up rightly, but you need to play around with is called the Boid brain. The Boid brain have a set of actions and have a rule that allow you to basically run through the set of actions. These actions are kind of self-explanatory. Like avoid collision means that the zombies or boys will try to avoid each other from colliding. In the case, make sure that we have all the collisions set up so that they will also avoid the walls as well. Separate, essentially the zombie will try to separate from each other. But to do simulation, I find that separate and the word flock means they come together. These two is opposite to each other, but together in the simulation, you find that they do look pretty nice in terms of moving around. All right. For my purpose, I have another particular action called the goal. Goal is like making all the boys going towards it. Um, so that is a good effect because now you have the whole town of zombies going towards the center. If I put my goal in the center, the goal here refers to an object that you can always design. I use my case, I use a cone. All right, this let me see. This is a cone. The cone is named here on the screen. Let me try to do a prayer. Okay, here's the cone. Now the cone, I call it cone goal. I use it as my goal for the zombie to go towards. So back to my roaming zombies again. So if you look back at the Boid brain for goal, so the target object is really the cone goal, all right? And again, it's set on land so that it go in. The rule evaluation, I found that fuzzy seems to be the best choice around zero point 0.3 setting in terms of the influence of this rule that will kind of jumble out between each of the action that you selected. So in this simulation, I set up 4 action, and you have to follow this order because the way it works, it can be quite challenging. I found that goal, if you put it in the third row, has the best effect in terms of how I want to have all these zombies going towards the center at the same time with a bit of a roaming effect. So this is the setting I have. You can try with other settings and try a combination of them to see how it looks. But after a lot of try and error, I found this combination seems to work best for my scene. So I just want to remind you, avoid collision is another special case. Avoid collision have additional options. You need to take on voids and deflector in order for it to really avoid each other and the walls. So that's basically Boid brain. The rest is, in my case, I will select the collections for the rendering using zombie move. Maybe I want to explain again one more time on the zombie. The way I organize a zombie is that I have a zombies that just basically stand still, right? That I really went through, and I also have zombies that move. I call them walkers. I have 3 of them. I have a crawler on the ground, Konya, and then I have one that run the direct policeman. He runs around. Uh, so these are some of the zombies. So maybe just a quick look back at this set of zombies. Right. So if I play again, you can see the motion. All right. So the one that move are the one. There are four of them I set up on the right hand side. Sorry, five of them because there's one crawling, and the other three are just standing zombies. All right. So those are the zombies. Let's switch on the town again. This in terms of another MT called the empty town. Empty town is basically controlling everything as the parent of all objects in this scene. That way, you allow you to just select the empty and move everything around. Okay. So that is the purpose of empty town. And this camera was added in so that I can just have a quick view. If I select empty top view, control numpad again. All right, this is the view that I normally use to have a quick check around the environment. So that's camera top view for quick access from the top and then try to control things. I want to remind you that because I'm putting more than 1,000 zombies, so things can get very slow on my computer. So to do any changes, I always go to the viewport shading, solid view, uh, solid mode, sorry, rather than the material view, because the material view does kind of slow down a lot, but still okay for my computer. And rendering is only when I want to see. So let's do rendering. All right. You can probably see some little lights going on. It's because I put some emission onto the eyes of one of the zombie to give it a little bit of a nice effect for those zombies. And as I said, the town square is surrounded by buildings, and you can find your own town square uh, to make it more interesting. So that's it for this particular scene setup, and I will also show some short demo on the final solutions and how this was used in a music video that I also make with my partner. So thank you for this watching this tutorial.
Hope you enjoy the video. Thank you for watching.